Hey, Texas FCA, it's Coach Keenum. I'm really excited to be with one of my favorite people in the world. This is Coach Jason Dean. He's the athletic director at Georgetown. Was the head football coach here, played for a state championship. Coached at Abilene a long time, had the misfortune of being one of my players from Santa Ana, Texas. But he's a great FCA coach. He's a 3D coach. And he loves the Lord, got a great family. I'm happy to be with you, Jason.
Coach, good to see you.
Thanks for taking a few minutes.
You bet.
You've been an assistant coach, you've been a head coach, you've been an athletic director. Help our staff get inside the world of each of those and help them understand a little bit about the differences and the pressures that you face.
Sure. For a long time, Coach, I was the head football coach at Georgetown High School for 10 years. And, like I told you before, I really feel like when you're the head coach of a big 5A, 6A program, or even at a smaller school, I can certainly see how maybe it's not the one program, but it's for many different programs, at that point. But you're married to it. It requires so much of your time and effort and energy that you pour into that thing. You don't feel like there can be one single thing that you're not involved in, running somehow, some way. Had great assistants, man. Some of my best friends, were my assistants and trusted those guys very much with the jobs that I gave them. But still, when things didn't go right, that buck always, stopped with you. And so, you're just married to it. There's no question.
Well, I know the perceptions between a head coach and assistant coach, and they're both coaches, but you've got one guy that's coaching a position, and he's worried about that little world.
Sure.
In part of the bigger world. And as the head coach, you've got to see the global picture, the universal picture. What does that mean in terms of the relationships that you're able to develop, not just with other coaches, but with kids, but with people outside? Because FCA staff want to be involved. How does that work?
My first year to be the head coach, we were terrible. We finished 1-9. I was probably the worst 5A head coach in the state of Texas. And realized at the end of that year that although I still tried to be the offensive line coach, for our team that year, probably did a terrible job of doing that. I realized that I had lost my connection with our team. That all season, man, I just poured myself into books and read as many books as I could about coaching and strategies and different things like that, but really not strategies on the field as far as X's and O's goes, but really more leadership type stuff. And one of the first books I read was Coach Allen's book, and he talked about his leadership council during that time. And the next year, and from then on, and even they still do it now, at both of our high schools, we developed a leadership council. And really, I stepped out of being the offensive line coach anymore. I was the head coach. I didn't coach a position. But really, my position was that leadership council. And I wasn't coaching those guys on how they played linebacker, how they played quarterback or offensive line. I was coaching them more on how they led their positions. And it gave me a connection now back with the team that I was really missing, after that first year. And to answer your question, I think that is who the FCA staff person needs to connect with. Are those assistant coaches who are running the FCA huddle? Many times as the head coach, you get people to come in and want to talk to you about FCA or Young Life or, whatever different kind of event they have. And really the head coach, other than giving it their blessing, yeah, absolutely. I'd love for you to come in and talk with our kids about FCA. Really, they're hands off. They don't have anything to do with FCA. Who is the boots on the ground with that FCA huddle is the offensive line coach or the linebacker coach, or the defensive coordinator, whoever, and sometimes even the head coach. But who is the boots on the ground that is running that FCA huddle every Monday night? Who is meeting with that leadership group of those FCA kids and decide, okay, guys, what's our game break going to be, this week? Who's making sure that we have pizza there? Who's got the speaker lined up? All that kind of stuff. Many times that's not the head coach. That's the position coach that's in charge of FCA. So I guess what you're asking me is who as FCA do we need to pour our time into? To me, we need to pour our time into that leadership council that I talked about, that we developed, that Coach Allen talked about in his book, we need to be pouring our time and effort into that leadership council of the FCA folks. So the offensive line coach who's the FCA leader, or the girls basketball coach who's the FCA leader, or whatever.
I was at a clinic the other day, and there was a coach talking. It was on Jeff Ellison, and he was talking about how they've got their coaches positioned when the bell rings. Some guys are sprinting because they've got to get lined up, at a certain time. And I'm thinking that's the same thing we did in 1981 at Ballinger, because we wanted every minute. The minutes are precious. We wanted to milk every rep we could get. But I also know that we spend all our waking time figuring out how we can get them stronger, how we can get them a little faster, what's our cover technique going to be, or our technique blocking. We want to get as many reps as we can. So we're working their knowledge, and we're working their physical skills, but we don't spend a lot of time coaching that.
Sure.
Unless the head coach makes a decision that they're going to do that.
Sure.
Case has been in the NFL a long time, and it's not because he got the greatest arm, and he's pretty sharp. It's because of this muscle right here. So if FCA can help the head coach with tools to grow that piece, and then give skills to the huddle coach about how to operate a huddle and support that, do you think that might be a pretty good way for an FCA staff person to function on a school campus?
Absolutely. One of the things that has really taken off here lately, Stephen Mackey, with the whole Mackey speaks, the 3 words, improvement, all that kind of stuff. That's something we invest in, here in Georgetown. It became very important to me as the head coach that we were going to do more than just coach X's and O's. We were going to develop some type of character training, to be involved in those kids. And as well as I do in public school, you got to be careful, about what that character training looks like. Is it too spiritual? All that kind of stuff. You got to be careful. But there's a way to do it where you have a captive audience and you are doing exactly what you said. You are speaking to that kid's heart. You are training that kid not to be a better linebacker. You're training that kid to be a better husband, and a better father, a better brother. And our kids need that. I believe our kids crave that. And so anytime FCA can speak to that and give that coach who's got 200 kids in his athletic program, and like you're talking about, man, he's running around like his hair's on fire, trying to get faster, stronger, better at football type stuff, and you give him something that's already laid out, it's very easy, coach. If you'll just follow this plan, you're going to be able to do character training for the entire year, for you. And I think that's very valuable.
Well, we're running out of time. Let's summarize. 3 things that you want our staff to know about the differences in how they can serve head coaches or athletic directors, and how they can serve assistants or all coaches specifically.
Sure. Number one, I think you got to pour into the assistant coach. Who is the FCA representative on the coaching staff? And you got to pour into that person. You got to make sure that person, that person's job is easy. That guy or girl doesn't have the time to fundraise. Okay, it's very difficult for that person to come to a fundraiser. So can the FCA staff help give that person contacts in the community or whatever it is of coaching you pizza for your FCA meeting? Call this person, they will help you. Anything like that to make that easier, I think is critical.
Okay. And for the head coach?
Know where the FCA person is, know that they're available. Typically, in my experience, when we had kids that needed help financially, with money or anything like that, that head coach needs to know, okay, who can I call to help with scholarship money? Who's my main contact to help with getting this kid who I need to go to FCA camp or sports camp or whatever, whether it's not leadership camp or whatever. What is that person's contact information? I can make the call and make sure that I'm going to be able to get kids to camp that I need to get to camp.
So what I heard you say is to be available to the head coach.
Absolutely.
And make them aware of FCA stuff.
That's right. How can we help you with FCA? For sure.
Okay. Well, Texas FCA. We're going to hear from Coach Dean on some other topics, but I appreciate this, and I hope it's helped you see a little bit about how coaches think and feel and what's important to them so we can think like a coach. God bless you.